Hello, we're back for a new DEX. My name is Anouk and this time we're going to take a look at Adobe After Effects. In this design exercise we're going to create an animation with some text, and I made this one for Mother's Day, which in many countries will be celebrated on the 12th of May. I thought this line was pretty funny and a nice ego boost for both my mom and me, but of course you are free to use any text. In the next DEX we will also look at some other options, like using files created in Illustrator, but for this DEX everything we need for this animation can be prepared in Adobe After Effects. Okay, let's take a look at Adobe After Effects first. Okay, so here we are in Adobe After Effects. I created a new project. The first time opening this app might feel a bit intimidating, but don't worry, we'll take it step by step, and there's lots of things we won't even use for this DEX, but I will take you through, and we're just going to start with some basics to get your animation going. So we just created a first document, and a document in this app is called projects. And a project will have one or more compositions. So a composition, which you can create by clicking here, it's like the filling of your project. Without a composition, your project is empty like it is right now. So let's make a first composition. We can do that in several ways. If you, for example, already prepared something in Illustrator, you could create a composition from the footage from Illustrator by clicking here. But we don't have anything yet. We're going to create everything from scratch in Adobe After Effects. So we can just click here, New Composition. And after double clicking here, we can start preparing the settings. Well, let's give this a name. Mother's Day. It's still on caps, sorry. Mother's Day. I'm gonna create this little animation to put on Instagram. So I want it to be a square, 1080 pixels, 1080 pixels, it's already there. But of course you can also pick another size, depending on where you want to post it or use it on. Well, let's see, so I've got it custom. Another commonly used one is this one. Here it is. If you put it on that one, you've got HD TV 1080-25. The width is then 1920 pixels, which is a really common size, for example, for YouTube as well. So you could use that one as well. I'm just gonna go back to my custom one and put that to 1080. Unlock that one. Oh, 1080. So I'm back to the square. Frame rate 25, that's absolutely fine. I want the resolution to be full. And then here the duration, you can set the duration. So this one now says it will be 7 seconds, which I think will be fine for what we're preparing. But you can always adjust it later on. So just estimate how long you will need for your animation. Later on, if it turns out we need more or less, we can just easily adjust the settings. So that's no problem. And then we press OK. And here's our first, well, our first square, our first composition that we need to fill. And once we start filling it up, here we can check what's happening. So this is your timeline, completely empty at the moment. 7 seconds, as you can see here. And here we will create layers. And you could compare that to the layers you use in Illustrator. But I will show you that later. Well, first we have to create some content for our composition, which is called Mother's Day. And here in this area you can see one or more compositions that you are creating within a project. So this little icon is the icon for a composition, and we named it Mother's Day. Okay, we're going to create the first layer, and that's going to be the background, which I want to give a color. And you can go there, pressing here, Layer, New layer, and I want it to be a solid background color. So I'm just going to press Solid, and then here I'm going to choose the color. Here you can see the size, which is the exact size that we need. That's the composition size. That's fine. and this is the color of my background. So when I press it, it's on the color that I was planning to use. So that's great. But you can adjust that, for example, rearranging the color for your background. I wanted, let's see if I can get it back. Well, I'm just gonna pop in what I prepared. Let's do this one. DDB. Oh, 84. Okay. Okay, there we are. That's the first bit. Well, that was easy. There's not much else we need to do for the background. So now we have our first layer created. Nothing is happening on the timeline yet, it's static. But we have our background. And, well, just to remain organized, I'm going to rename that as background. So just maybe that was a bit quick. What did I do? I selected this layer, right click, and then rename. Quickly get the spelling right, background, enter. Especially if you are working with a lot of layers, it's good to name your layers to help yourself. I don't have to do anything with this layer, but I can still move it around. But I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to lock it. Here's the little lock icon. I'm going to click that one, so I can't move it around. It's there, we're done. So I need to create another layer because we are going to add in the text. So back to layers, and this time new, we're going to use this one, the text. And that will open, here it's already activated, the type tool. That will open our text tool. And I'm just going to type away. Great, it's the wrong font. Let me quickly already adjust it here. So here it's the character panel, also a bit similar to what you are used from other Adobe programs. I'm gonna use a font named Ivy Mode, this one, a lot smaller. Now here the settings, you can click on it and just with your arrows go down or type in the one you need, like I think around 100, 104. Enter. But you can also, if you click on it, you see those little arrows to the left and the right, and that's also something you can use a lot in After Effects. So if I click on it and then drag to the left, it goes bigger, drag to the right, it gets much larger. But that's a good one to know. Okay, let's continue writing out. Great job, Mom. Enter. I turned out awesome. Great. Dot. Okay. Now you can see we created a new layer. I'm also going to rename that one. But it's the great job text. And I want it to be in the middle. So centered in the middle. I could do that by here grabbing the selection tool and then dragging it up and estimating if it's in the middle. But we can also use the align, which I'm sure you will know as well. And I want to align it to the composition. So the composition is this square and I want it to be in the middle and in the middle centered here. Okay, great. So that's our first bit. Again, it's static. Nothing is moving yet. So the first thing we're going to do is create our first animation. And we want to create this first text popping into the screen. Now, if you go here, you can see this little arrow and click on it. And then click again here on Transform. These are some great transform tools that we can use to animate this. I'm just going to quickly show you a couple of things. So the position, if you select it, right now these are the positions. And again, if I put my mouse on it, you can see those little arrows again, and if I drag them to the right, it goes down. Command C to undo. If I drag it to the left, it goes up. Same here, to the left, to the right. So those are ways to like move your text around on the screen. It's an animation you could use. The scale. Right now it's on 100%. It's locked here, so it constrains the proportions, but you can unlock that if you want to. Again, if I drag it to the right, it becomes much bigger, to the left, much smaller. Command C, undo. Rotation, you can rotate the text, so have it moved around. There's one good thing to know. This is the anchor point, and you can see it's not really in the middle. So it's here, and when I rotate it, you can see it rotates around this anchor point. If that's what you want, that's fine. But what's possible is to move your anchor point to the middle so it centers and then rotates around the center point. You can change that if you go here. This is the anchor point tool. Click on it, and now you can see I can move it around, place it wherever. So if I would want it to rotate around a corner of the text, I'll place it here. Go to my rotation, and you see it now rotates around here. Wiggle, 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 and it's here. Okay, let's place it back. Rotation to 0. I don't want to have to be rotated. I'm just going to check if it's still aligned. I'm not really sure. Okay, yeah, it still is. And then there's the opacity, sorry. If you drag it to the left, it just fades out and fades in. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is animate this bit of text. I'm gonna use the opacity here to make it come into your screen slowly, like from 0 opacity, we won't see a thing, to 100. This is what we use to do that. This is like this little stopwatch icon. When we press that, it turns blue, so it's now activated and already popped in the first. You can see that little dot here. Here you can see that one as well. It's a keyframe. So it added a first keyframe, and that first keyframe, I want opacity to be 0. So we're not seeing anything. It's gone. I'm going to drag the timeline to about, well, what shall we do? Like, we can adjust that later, 2 seconds. And at that point, I'm going to drag it back to 100. And there's another keyframe automatically placed. So now what happens if I put this timeline back? It slowly comes in. So we upped the opacity from 0 to 100. So that's your first animation. Now there's something we can do to make it look more realistic. It's called easing, and it's about the speed of an object. So you can use it to make something look more realistic. For example, when you start running in real life, you start off a bit slower before you reach your full speed, and then at the end you start to slow down. And that's something you want to like mimic in an animation. And we can do that in Adobe After Effects. We're going to do that by clicking. So first selecting, drag over, selecting these 2 keyframes, they're blue now, right click. And then here we can add that easing effect. Keyframe velocity is one we can use, keyframe assistant as well. So easing, this one here, easy ease, just pops in an easing effect for you. You can also do it yourself, that gives you a bit more flexibility, keyframe velocity, and adding a percentage of influence, of easing influence to it. Let's say we add 70%, quite a bit, but then, okay. And now the keyframes changed, the look changed. You can see now that that is a different shape. So we know we've added an effect. It's always a bit difficult to see, but I can, like if I have these selected, we go here to the graph editor, you can see it starts off a bit slow, then it goes faster, and then the change slows down again. this would be a straight line if we don't use easing. It would be like a constant speed. So this is what the easing does. And this can be adjusted, of course. So if we right click again, keyframe velocity, I could also just say, in this case I don't think we will see a lot, but sometimes it makes a big difference. Let's just pop it down to 50%. Now you can see it's a less strong wave in there. So what's next? Let's pop in a little icon here. I used a noun project. You can find that online. I will add the website beneath the DEX tutorial. I often use noun projects and looked for a little icon with an eye wink, and I thought this one was nice. You can adjust the colors here, so you can give the icon any color that you want. You can choose it here. So let's say we want that same green. Let's see, or the same red, I mean. Let's do the green. 5, 4, 6 that I've used before. 5, 2. This is the green. I'm just gonna select it. You can see it's the color. I'm just gonna drag it in, put it on my board. Here we are. It's still a bit too big. I'm just gonna grab my selection tool, drag it down, make sure it's centered. And now here we've got a new layer already. It's like a PNG put in there. I'm just gonna select it and rename it Wink. And here we can transform it. So let's the scale. I want to put the scale down to, well, really small, 37%. And here I can also adjust the position. I want to move it down a little bit, like that. Okay. So it's already there. I don't want it to be there. I just want to have it first have the sentence come in and then this little icon appear. And so I can do that. Here, this line, I can, if I sit on the limit, I can drag it out. So now it will pop in later. So let's say 1.5. So if I hit the space bar, it starts playing. If I hit the space bar again, it pauses. So I just want to see what we have. And I realized I want this text green as well. So let's just do that. It's this red, but I want to use that later on for another text. So I'm just gonna double click and adjust that to green as well. I forgot that. 5, 4, 6, E, 5, 2. Great, so it's green. I forgot. So now what do we have? Spacebar. And then the little face pops up. We could give that a little animation as well instead of just popping on. This is the wink. Got it selected. So I'm just gonna close down with the arrow this one, otherwise it gets so messy down here. So I'm just now working on the eye wink. What shall we do? Use the scale. So it comes into stage around here. I'm gonna again press this little stopwatch. So right now I want it to start 0. Oh. And then, well, I'll say in a short period 2, it's gonna be drag. We had it around 37, I think. Okay. going to select it, right click, and give it some ease. Let's just this time use the assistant, easy ease. Back, spacebar. So it pops in. Great. So it's like if it comes from far, moving towards us. Hi. Now there's another thing we can do as well, especially if an object is moving. For example, if this little face would go from here to here. It's not, but that often happens that you have things moving in the animation. And here it seems as if it moves from behind, far away, and it moves in like, whoa, here I come, closer by. So this has a sense of moving. And when things move, they blur a little bit. And you can mimic that easily as well. So here, I'm just gonna click it. So the wink, there's this little icon here. It's called motion blur, and it simulates that blurry effect. So when I click it, it will do that. It blurs a little bit for this little icon as well. So that's the text, great job mom. We've got this little icon. Now we need to add a third element, and that was the text love you. So I want to have that text, great job mom, I turned out awesome, to disappear slowly, and to have that love you text popping in the screen. Let's first create a new layer because we need to type in the love you. I'm going to create a new layer, new, and it's going to be text again. And that is the word love you, love, but we need a different one. That's font antique, olive noir, yes, and that one should be a different color. I'm gonna use C4555, darkish red, pinkish one that I think is cool with the green. Okay, and I want this to be bigger, so I'm gonna pop it up to about, let's see, how far do we go, 200 to here. Let's do 230. Okay, that's fine. So there we go. So we've got love, and it already used the word, so I don't need to rename it. It's perfect. I'm going to do you in a different layer because I want to animate it separately from the word love. So we've got love, and now I'm going to create another layer, new text. I'm going to type in you, and it's already placed, what was that? You, it in the right font and color. So that's you, perfect. Okay, now first start with the love. I'm going to transform it. So we need to adjust the position. I'm going to pop it up a bit, love, around here. And we're going to lower the U. So I'm going to go there, U, transform. Where is the position? That's here. I'm going to move that one down a little bit. Around here. And I want to rotate them. So I want the love to move that way and the U to move that way. So where are we now? Let's just start with love. Where's love? So I've got this one selected, transform. And I'm going to rotate it. Now we can see that the anchor point is in a weird location. So I'm just going to select the anchor point tool. I'm going to move the anchor point to the middle. Is that the same here as well? Yeah. Okay, let's move that one there as well. Okay, select love. Gonna rotate it. So I've got the rotation, and I think I'm gonna put that to around 50. And we're gonna move U. So I've got that one selected, rotate the other way. So that one will be plus 1.5. Okay, now I wanna play with it a little bit. I'm just gonna grab the selection tool. Move that one over there. And this one over here. Now what we have, I'm just gonna quickly pop these in. We have these 5 layers. Background is done, the great job, the eye wink, and then love you come in. But right now, love you is there already. We don't want that, so spacebar. These two, first of all, I'm just going to quickly move them up a little bit. So I'm going to drag their line out, like to about, let's say, 3 seconds. Just going to spacebar, see what we have. Great job. And then we have that. But this is a bit boring. Pop them up. So I want to animate the love you as well. There's different ways we can do that. We could like also start with the love and then have the love you come in later, which makes sense in the order of these 2 words. So now we have love you. But I also want the great job, mom, and this icon to slowly disappear once the love you pop in. So let's do that first. I'm gonna great job, mom. So we have that one selected. The shortcut is T. And when you do T, it only opens up the opacity, so the transform tool that you used on it. It's the only transformation that we use for the was opacity. So that's great, we don't need it all. So that's here. And now I want it to slowly, so maybe around when this one starts, when love comes in, I'm going to add another one for 100%, so it remains 100%. And then I think around here for 2 seconds, I'm going to add, so just click on it, we have another one to 0, it moves away. And it already contains the easing effects that we used before, so that's already done for me. So let's see what we have. And it ends with love you. And I actually want to, I think they're a bit too far away from each other, so I'm just gonna move them down a bit. And let's see how that looks. Spacebar. And you can choose to also have that one disappear like we've done, but I actually think it's pretty funny to keep that little face in there. Yeah, so we've got the great job, mom, sorted. Is it? You could leave it like this. We could animate the love in different ways. So if you transform, let's see, you could like use the scale and have it like come into the screen. So it starts off small, like this, and then grows into 100%. So let's see what happens then. What we have, love you. Okay, what else can we do? I'm just showing you a couple of examples. I would love for you to make up your own mind and adjust it. Let's see, I'm just gonna undo because I don't want the rotation. We could also like have it come in as if it was like a type machine, so a little bit more like tick, L-O-V-E. So what I did, and I'm just going to quickly show you, that's something you can play around with as well. Effects and presets. There is like a type, just search type, writer, this one. So these are effects that are already made for you, and you can drag them on top of an element, and then it adds an effect to your text. So for example, this one, I've got laugh selected, sorry, and then I'm gonna just click on it and drag and put it on top of love. And now it added a typewriter effect. So let's just go back and show you what happened. And then we need to do the same on you, otherwise it's a bit weird. So now we do, that's love. I'm just gonna take that one in, select the U, and we would like to have the same effect on you. Done. Let's see what we have now. Well, I think that looks pretty okay. Just gonna quickly move this bar. What does it look like in the end? Love you. Is that nice? Should we? I'm just gonna move that in a little bit. Okay. Well, let's. Yeah, okay, great. Well, now, there's one thing I wanted to show you before we render this. Let's say you have everything ready and it turns out you need to adjust your time ruler. So here we are pretty fine with the 7 seconds, but let's say we need it like a few seconds more, a few seconds less. You can easily adjust it. Just go to composition and then to your composition settings. And now here, by adjusting here the amount of seconds, you can just adjust it. Make it like 8, press OK, and then your timeline has an extra second. So that's something I just wanted to let you know. Now we need to render this, and that's really easy as well. I realized that we did give the composition a name, but we haven't named the project and saved it. So let's do that first. File, save projects, save as. Untitled project, yes, still not saved. So let's pop it in the right one. So it's like Mother's Day. The file Adobe After Effects, and we'll call that Dex Mother's Day. Okay, and now I'm gonna render it. So we need to go to File, and then you go to Export, and then we're gonna add it to Adobe Media Encoder Q. And this will render it in a separate program called Media Encoder. It's down here, it's this one, ignore that, so previous projects. I'm just going to check the name and where it's going to be saved to make sure it's at the right location. So we are here, and I want it to go here, Final, Mother's Day, well, let's call it Dex. And it's gonna save it as MP4, which is great. And now it's ready to go. And when you click on this little green play icon, it will start rendering the file. It's not a long animation, so it's pretty quick. And it's done. So now if I go to my Finder, Mother's Day, Final, this was the one we just made. It's here. Great. So we're done. That's it for me. So it's time for you guys to get to work. Don't forget to upload yours via the link when you're ready, because we would love to see your work and see what kind of an animation you are making. Also, if you have any requests for a next subject on Dex, don't hesitate to let me know. Okay, good luck. Bye-bye.